All right, let's dive into a book that's made waves for millions of people, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. It's this modern fable, really, about a guy who had it all the money, all the stuff, but completely lost himself along the way. So, over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack its big promise, a formula for real success and genuine happiness. But before we get into the story, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're climbing that ladder? The ladder of success, working your tail off, only to get this nagging feeling that maybe, just maybe, it's propped up against the wrong wall? Well, that feeling, that's exactly where this story begins. Okay, so let's get right into it. The story kicks off with our main character, a guy who, on the surface, had absolutely everything you could ever want. He was at the top of his game. So meet Julian Mansell. This guy is a rock star trial lawyer. We're talking a seven-figure salary, the huge mansion, a private jet, and of course, that prize red Ferrari. He's the poster child for success, right? But, and it's a big but, on the inside, he's totally empty, spiritually bankrupt. He's only 53, but the stress has aged him so much he looks like he's pushing 80. Seriously. And that's really who this book is for. Any professional out there grinding away, making it happen, but feeling like something crucial is missing. And then it happens. The breaking point. He's in a packed courtroom right in the middle of a case, and bam, he collapses. A massive heart attack. I mean, talk about a wake-up call, right? It's like his body and soul were finally saying, we're done. The bill for his lifestyle had finally come due, and he just couldn't pay it. So this crisis, it completely shakes him to his core. He finally sees it clearly. All those trophies on the outside meant nothing because his inner life was a total wreck. Just like the book says, success without soul is spiritual bankruptcy. And that realization, it sets him off on a whole new journey to find the pieces of himself he'd lost. And what does he do next? I mean, this is pretty radical. He sells everything, the mansion, the jet, and yep, even that beloved Ferrari. He literally trades his designer suits for a backpack and flies to India looking for answers. And his search eventually leads him way, way up into the Himalayas to a mythical group of monks known as the Great Sages of Sivana. Okay, and this is where we get to the real heart of the book. The sages share with Julian their secrets to an enlightened life, and it all boils down to 5 really powerful, timeless lessons. Let's get into them. So the first big idea, the foundation for everything else, is this. Success on the outside means nothing unless you also have success within. Basically, your inner world, that's the real scoreboard. And getting this one idea is what changes everything for Julian. You see, the insight is that all the external stuff, it's just a band-aid if you're not okay on the inside. So how do you apply this? Well, you start treating your own character growth with the same focus you give your career. Think about it. Instead of just a to-do list, what if you had a to-be list? Taking a few minutes every day to think about who you're actually becoming. All right, lesson number 2 gets into the incredible power of your mind. It's all about this idea that everything is created twice, first in the mind and then in reality. In other words, your life is a direct reflection of what's going on in your head. The book has this great metaphor for it. It calls your mind a garden, right? If you just let it go, weeds of worry, fear, and negativity will take over, and that's what your life will look like. But if you're intentional, if you plant seeds of positive, empowering thoughts, you'll get a beautiful harvest. So the practical takeaway is to practice mental gardening every single morning. Consciously decide what you're going to plant in there for the day. Okay, on to the third lesson, which is all about purpose. As the quote goes, the purpose of life is a life of purpose. It sounds simple, but think about it. Without a clear why, we're just drifting, like a ship without a rudder. When you know your purpose, suddenly even the boring tasks have meaning because they're part of a bigger picture. It's like having a compass. So here's the application for you. Try a values audit. Seriously, write down your top 5 values. Maybe it's family, adventure, learning, whatever. Now, pull up your calendar from last week. Does how you actually spent your time match what you say you value? It's a really eye-opening exercise. And that brings us perfectly to lesson number 4, which is all about the magic of tiny, consistent improvements. The book introduces this Japanese concept called kaizen, which basically means continuous improvement. The idea here is to forget about these huge, heroic changes. Real, lasting results come from the compound effect of small daily efforts. It's so simple. The application? Just pick one thing in your life. One thing.
and commit to getting just 1% better at it every day. It doesn't sound like much, but that 1% compounds into something massive over a year. It's incredible.
And finally, the fifth lesson brings it all together. It's about living in the present. Live in the present and savor the simple joys. The big takeaway is that happiness isn't some destination you arrive at one day. It's found right here, right now, in this moment. So the idea is that the past is gone and the future isn't here yet. The only thing that's real is now. And to get better at being present, the book suggests a really cool, simple practice called the Heart of the Rose meditation. All you do is take a flower, or any simple object really, and for just 5 minutes, you give it your complete, undivided attention. Notice its color, its feel, its smell. No judgment, just pure presence. So how do you actually make all this a part of your life? Well, the book boils it down to a simple daily practice. In the morning, you cultivate your mental garden with positive thoughts. Throughout the day, you're on weed patrol, pulling out any negative thoughts that pop up. And then at night, you do a quick inventory. See how your garden grew. It's a really simple but powerful routine. Okay, so after unpacking all of that, what's our final verdict on The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari? So here's the deal. The book's biggest strength is that it's just so accessible. It takes all this ancient wisdom and wraps it up in a story that's easy to understand and gives you things you can do right away. But that simplicity is also its biggest weakness. It kind of oversimplifies some really complex psychological stuff. There's not a lot of science to back it up. And this is important. It could make people with serious mental health issues feel like they just need to think more positively, which is definitely not the case. So when we weigh the good and the bad, our final score for The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari is a 6.4 out of 10. Think of it as a fantastic gateway into self-improvement, but definitely not the last stop on the journey. And here's how that breaks down. You can see it gets high marks for practical applicability, the techniques are great, and its potential impact for beginners is really strong. But it gets marked down quite a bit on research quality, because, well, there isn't any, and on originality since these ideas have been around for a long, long time. So, if this explainer got you thinking and you're hungry for more, we've got 2 great recommendations. If you want something similar but with more structure and psychology behind it, you have to read Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And if you want to go really deep on that whole living in the present idea, then Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now is an absolute must-read. So we'll leave you with the challenge, one that comes straight from that principle of Kaizen. After everything we've talked about, what's the one, just one, small, daily improvement you're going to commit to for the next 30 days? Think about it. Thanks so much for tuning in.